Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I've got a short article to read for you all, and this, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, it's what's coming down the pipeline and will be in a city near you and not the too distant future. Before I read this article though, I want to go ahead and tell you guys, and those of you that have been here for a while, that have been part of our community here for a while, pretty much understand what my ideology on prepping is. Prepping is not an end-all be-all. Prepping is a tool that we use in order to get us from point A to point B. And hopefully, by the time that we get to point B, we in ourselves will be more self-reliant, where we will not have to rely on our preps as much as those things that we are doing in order to provide for ourselves those things that we need to continue to live and have a decent standard of living. Now, I wanted to go ahead and show you what the difference between self-reliance and self-sufficiency is. A lot of people kind of combine these two together, but self-reliant is what we want to be, because self-sufficiency is something that is, in my opinion, kind of out of our reach, and I'll explain that to you here in a second. So as you can see here, the definition of self-reliance is reliance on one's own efforts and abilities, meaning that you can produce for yourself those things that your abilities allow you to produce. In addition to that, what I would add is you can produce for yourself those things that your efforts and abilities allow you to produce for yourself, but you still need outside help. For example, that shovel that you need. Did you make that shovel from scratch? Did you mine the ore? Did you turn that ore into iron? Did you form that shovel, heat treat it, carved out your own handle, etc.? Okay, self-reliance is where you can get things that you need in order to amplify your own qualities. So if you have qualities, for example, in gardening, let's say you're very proficient in gardening, you're still going to need some tools to garden with. And more than likely, those tools that you're going to need, you're not going to be able to build yourself. Now, self-sufficiency, the definition for it is needing no outside help in satisfying one's basic needs, especially with regard to the production of food. So for example, like I was saying before, some people may say, well, I don't need any outside help to do a good garden. But do you not really? Did you make all of the tools that you have? Did you make all of the clothes that you're wearing? All of the protective equipment that you're wearing? Did you make all of that yourself? So you are not self-sufficient. And the reason that I'm comparing these two definitions is because we have to remember that there is strength in community. For example, one of the plans that I have within my immediate community, i.e. the neighbors that live in my area, is that if things get to a point where we really have to rely on ourselves to produce most of the foods that we consume, that as a community we could do it better. For example, maybe one year I'll be the tomato house. I'll be the house in this small community that grows a large abundance of tomatoes. And maybe my neighbor will grow peppers, and maybe my other neighbor down the road will grow cucumbers. And then we will all come together and barter with each other to exchange those produces that we did not grow. And then maybe the following year, we can switch it around. That way we're not growing the same thing every year on the same plot of land. That's more of a self-reliant thing. A self-sufficiency thing is something that is, what I feel, out of the reach of many. I'm not saying that there aren't some people out there that could survive by themselves in the woods or something and be able to live on their own, but that is more than likely a lot less than people that need to rely on other people. And that's where community comes into play, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know that it is important to make those connections. It is important to have a relationship with your neighbors and the people that live around you, especially your families. And I wanted to go ahead and read this quick article for you all, because what I'm assuming is this. Most of these world leaders, they know that we are going to be entering into a major food shortage crisis. Not only in Europe, not only in the US, but throughout the world. And with that is going to come a lot of rationing. With that is going to come a lot of propaganda in order to teach the masses that we, those that decided to take their wealth, to take their time and abilities and prepare ahead of time, instead of going on vacations, instead of buying the $80,000 truck, instead of having a McMansion, if you guys remember that term, i.e. having a house that's 40,000 square feet, and just having an extravagant amount of things that are just that, things, and not life-sustaining things. I'm no one to tell you not to get your McMansion. By all means, if that's what you want, and that's what will make your life better, go get it. But if you do have that McMansion, if you did keep up with the Joneses, why don't you have preps? Why don't you have a way to carry you over through a crisis so that you can make it out the other side? Okay. Because what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is this, is that most of the population is not prepared. And that's evident by all of the footage that we've been seeing in the last couple of months of how people panic when they see uncertain times coming ahead. My message now is this. Don't just prep for today or tomorrow. Don't just prep for the next 6 months. Prep for the next year, for the next 2 or 3 years. And that may sound outrageous. What, are you crazy? How am I going to prep for the next 2 or 3 years? Slow and steady, ladies and gentlemen. Slow and steady. Even in the times that we are in right now, and even in the next year or two, which are going to get, in my opinion, a lot tougher than they are now, you can still do something to prepare. And I really feel that we need to prep for as long as possible. Because, like I said, they know that we're going into a major food crisis. And little by little, they are doing things to condition us to accept rationing, to accept alternative kinds of foods, like what I'm going to read to you here in a second. They're going to try to push us into the mentality that they want us to have. They want us to think about bugs as being good. They want us to want to eat bugs. They want us to want to drink cockroach milk. And little by little, as these articles come out, they condition us to think that, hey, maybe it's not too bad. I mean, I've read before that the average person in the US at least eats a certain number of pounds of bug parts that come in their food, which is true. When you scoop out a scoop of flour, there's bits and pieces of bugs in there that you can't see. So wait for that article. Wait for that article. Well, you're already eating bugs. This is how many bug parts the USDA or the FDA or whatever it may be, whatever alphabet soup it may be, allows manufacturers to leave inside of your food. Wait for that article to come out. It'll be interesting if it does. So little by little, ladies and gentlemen, we are being conditioned to accept the fact that in the future, and it may be a year or 2 years, but this will be coming to a city near you. That in the future, we will have no other choice than to eat the bug soup that we are being provided by the big agro manufacturing companies, which are taking over all of our small farms. Carrying on, it says here, European Union approves bugs for human consumption. And it says the European Union's Food Safety Authority has approved the sale of bugs as novel food, meaning that they are likely to be mass-produced for human consumption throughout the continent by the end of the year. These have a good chance of being given the green light in the coming few weeks, the Secretary General of the International Platform of Insects for Food and Feed says. Since 1997, the EU has required a novel food classification to allow the sale of products that had no history of being consumed by humans, meaning that the sale of bugs has been banned in countries like Spain, France, and Italy for over 2 decades. However, with the new approval, mass production of bug-based food is set to ramp up later this year. This means that the locusts, crickets, grasshoppers, and mealworms may all appear on supermarket shelves by autumn. Christopher is looking forward to the sale of bugs as both a standalone food and incorporated into existing products, arguing that they are a great source of protein and the production of bug food doesn't harm the planet. The sort of foods range from whole insects as an aperitif or a snack to processed insects into bars or pasta or burgers made out of insects. As we all have previously highlighted, eating bugs has been heavily promoted by cultural institutions and the media in recent years because people are being readied to accept drastically lower standards of living under disastrous global programs. This will be exacerbated by the expected economic recession or even depression caused by this health outbreak. So, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot the name of my last video, but I think it said something like, they will not let a good crisis go to waste. Same thing is being done here. Right now, the world is feeling a food pinch because of the transportation issues that we're having. I feel after reading a few articles and watching a few videos that we don't necessarily have a food shortage problem right now, but what we have is a problem of being able to transport the foods that we do have to the places where they are needed. And a good example of that is that I believe someone mentioned this in the last video, is that farmers were being mandated to dump their milk because they had no one to sell it to. Not because the milk wasn't needed by certain communities, but because the processing plants and the transportation mechanism by which that milk gets sanitized, homogenized, pasteurized, and then put in packaging and then transported has somewhat shut down to an extent that it cannot handle the volume that the farmers are currently producing. And what does it take for a farmer or any business really to start up just from scratch? This issue that's going on right now is going to end up bankrupting a lot of businesses and farmers as well. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I personally feel that of all the businesses that are shuttering right now for this crisis that we're going through right now, I personally feel that at least 40 to 50% of those businesses will not start back up. So this will be a big problem in the future. That's why I'm saying go ahead and prep Prep more than what you think you need. That way it will give you the time to work towards self-reliance, which is what we're all going to have to be if we are going to try to maintain a standard of living that's even close to what we have now, ladies and gentlemen. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. I truly do appreciate it. Hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and make some, cinnamon buns tonight. If you guys watched this video and you got to this part and you want to watch me make those, let me know and I'll go ahead and record it and put it up. They're very tasty, by the way. Having said that, again, thank you very much for joining in. I hope you guys are having a good week so far. I hope that you are all safe and healthy. And I also hope that you all remember to be good to each other. Because when good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.